Welcome to the Growth Guys Podcast, presented by KinderReeseCoaching.com. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents who are serious about growing their business. Get the strategies and tactics to grow your business fast while building the lifestyle you dream of. Now, sit back, buckle up, and get ready, because we're about to get real. The Growth Guys Podcast starts right now.
All right, welcome to today's Growth Guys Podcast. I'm excited to do this one today. Growth Guys, Kitchens and I love doing these episodes, and today is about branding. And we went through the process of when we coming up with the podcast and everything, Growth Guys, and we went back and forth on, man, does that represent, who we are, what we're trying to do on these podcast episodes or what? So I'm excited to talk about it today. What's going on, John Kitchens?
What is happening, Mr. Kiani, man? Good as always to be on here with you, and looking forward to diving in. I know we got a pretty awesome topic that we're going to dive into and start to get in a little on the marketing side, a little bit of strategy on marketing strategy, and specifically dive into branding.
Yep. So, Brandon, let's start just at the very, very root of the subject. And so tell me, Kitchens, what is the definition of branding anyhow?
Yeah. So we were chatting before we hit the, I think we all didn't hit the live button before we hit the live button. Sometimes we have some pretty good conversations, but we were just kind of talking about, definition from brand strategy is really just a long-term plan for the development of a successful brand in order to achieve specific goals. There's a little bit more, well-defined and executed brand strategy affects all aspects of a business and is directly connected to consumers' needs, emotions, and competitive environments. But as we were talking through there, man, there was a couple key words that you and I were talking about that really jumped out to you. What were they within that definition?
So you take that definition and just look at literally pull right out of it. It's all there for the taking. So you've got a long-term strategy to reach specific goals. So long-term strategy, that means that it's, something that you need to be committed to. You've got to be consistent with it. It's not you're running a 1-mile lap around the block. You're running a marathon. You don't build a brand in days. You might get awareness in a short period of time. You can get a lot of likes, whatever, but you ain't building a brand in days or weeks. It takes time and commitment. And so it takes the recognition. You have to be aware. It's funny. I came up with a little thing when I was running. I ran 10.5 miles earlier today, Kitchens. I didn't
giddy up.
And I had to, I can't locate my phone. So I was headed out the door and I'm like, damn, wait, how does this work? Oh, I can't, because I have a cheaper Samsung smartwatch and the battery dies when I go on long runs. So it's useless. And so I don't even bring it half the time. So I have my phone because I'm wearing a Camelback on the long run like that. So my phone's in there. And so I map my run on that and everything. But this time I didn't have my phone. So I'm like, oh man. So, I went old school. I went to Map My Run on .com, and I mapped out my route beforehand so that I knew that it would be 10.5 miles, and then did it. But when I was running, the reason is this morning I woke up and the circumstances of the day were such that it had rained. It was raining this morning. It was cooler. So there were circumstances that were unique today. I was aware of those circumstances, being like, damn, it's a little cooler today. Oh, that'd be great. And then I recognized, because I was aware, I recognized that an opportunity exists. And that was to get a long run in today. It might be 110 degrees tomorrow. I don't know, but I know today that there's an opportunity that exists. And so it's a principle that you can apply to anything. And it's every day there's circumstances. Every day there's circumstances. They change day to day. And if you're aware of what those circumstances are, you can spot or identify the opportunities that exist. you know, you hear that saying all the time that, well, in the right circumstances, in every circumstance, there exists an opportunity. You just have to be aware. And if you spell it out, CAO, it's cow. So, you know, milk your cow. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. You know, it's something really powerful that you said right there. And I don't want to derail us off this topic, but you just kind of triggered from a psychological, mental thinking standpoint. And you know, it's victim mindset, right? And you know, we sometimes we fall victim to, well, man, it's too hot, right? The conditions weren't right. This wasn't this way, this wasn't that way, right? We fall that. But we also don't realize that the pendulum swings the other way, to where we base our successes and our good fortune on the same thing. It's still the same victim mindset. And so I think, you know, one of the key words that you and I were throwing out when we were talking about this before we hit go, was consistency, right? It doesn't matter if it's, you know, like here's the thing, man. I know about you is like, your ass would have got out there and you would have ran and did something today. It could have been 110. You would have did something, but you just pushed it. You took advantage of the opportunities. You didn't use that as a circumstance, as a, you know, oh, you know, there's no way I could have, man, I know you could have done 10 miles if it was 110 out there today, but you know, you just saw a little bit of an opportunity. But the thing is, you're staying consistent. And so I think, you know, kind of shifting back over to kind of our conversation on brand and branding, you nailed it, man. It is long-term. You know, your forte is sales, right? And I look and view at sales as the short term, right? And it, you know, Vern Harnish really talks a lot about, you know, when you look at a priority perspective and you got to find some balance in your business and in your life, you've got to find something that impacts the P&L, right? That impacts cash flow. And to me, that's sales, right? So you throw a guy like you into any market, into any environment, you know how to sell, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to impact cash flow. You're going to be able to, you know, you're going to be able to hit the P&L. But what you guys have to look at from a branding perspective, yeah, there's certain things that we got to consider, that we've got to make sure it's a match, it aligns to our goals. But building your brands, like building your balance sheet, right? It's building equity in whatever it is you're building, and that goes to you personally too, right? What is your personal balance statement about you as an individual, as a human being? What are you doing to build your personal brand? What are you doing to build your business brand that is a long-term equitable play? And I mean, you mentioned one thing about the coaching side of things, but I'll rewind people back about 10 years. And we were wrestling with this. And I think this will be good context, Jeff, in that we were about to break away from Coldwell Banker. We've been, you know, Jay, ever since he got licensed in 97, you know, his dad still owns the Coldwell Banker franchise in Lawton. And, you know, I came on in 2004 with him, and that's all I've ever known, right? I knew that was it with him. And so when we evaluated and made the decision not to buy the business, but go independent, we went through the whole branding conversation, right? And we'll fast forward to where we're at and you know, Kinder Reese coaching. But as in the context, as it relates to what we were doing in Lawton, you know, it was Jay Kinder Home Selling Team at Coldwell Banker. That was the brand. Jay Kinder Home Selling Team, Jay Kinder Home Selling Team. And, you know, on everything that we had, right? We, you know, had the little house logo with the JK. Everything was wrapped, had his mug on everything, on every sign, on every billboard, every radio jingle, everything that we were doing. And so when we made the move, I think we knew long term that in our gut, you know, Jay wasn't going to be a part of that. So I think he kind of wrestled with it for a little bit. But we went, you know, we established, when we went through all the branding and studying all the branding books, we landed on, you know, we wanted to be positioned as as the expert, right? We want to be the expert. And this was before NAEA. We want to be positioned as the expert. So we knew in our branding that the expert had to be there. And all the branding studies, everything that we did, it was like, man, you got it. What are you, right? What are you? So we was like real estate experts. And we wrestled for the longest time. And, I finally said to him, I was like, bro, it's 2010. You've been licensed since 1997, building a brand in this marketplace, small town, 100,000 in the total county. You've been building Jay Kinder since 1997,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 2010, and you tell me that you want to take Jay Kinder off the shelf. I said, you can't. I said, that's like taking Coca-Cola off the shelf. And so that's where we landed, Jay Kinder Real Estate Experts. And it was because that brand had been built over time, right? The equity was there. It was in the balance sheet. It was an asset. And so that was the decision in how we landed on that naming convention for that brand. And so fast forward, and I'll let you, because we wrestled with this, working on the rebrand with kind of the soft relaunch of coaching coming from the Kinder Reese side. And it had been in NAEA forever. And there's certain goods, pros and cons, and there's a reason why the association was built. And it's still, the NAEA is still there. NAEA is the house for the designations of certified home selling advisor and certified home buying advisor. But when we were really focused just on the coaching side of things, kind of talk a little bit about that, Jeff, why we kind of circle back and how we ended with that, from a branding perspective.
Yeah, I think you could probably dive deep into that and spend a lot of time, but I would just say in a nutshell, the National Association of Expert Advisors. And so what's awesome about it is it's an entity of its own. It's like tangible. And throughout our coaching program, with the strategies that we taught, it was centered around differentiation. And in part of that is then creating your own identity in the marketplace. You need to be something besides the traditional AFA, right? Your average frustrated agent, or just the typical agent that's basically duplicable, line 10 up on a lineup, and show me the one that's so different. Like there probably isn't one. And so we were coaching all the time about differentiation. And so then what we were able to do is kind of package the philosophy and the concept all the way down to the marketing materials and the what to say and how to say it, mark everything down into a designation and a course, a curriculum that people were able to go through and then go home immediately and represent something that was different in their marketplace. And so NAEA was the perfect Coca-Cola, it was the perfect can to put that soda pop in. But at the end of the day, what was driving people to change the mindset and even recognize that coming to an expert advisor boot camp would help them, what was even turning the light bulb on from people to say, damn, I really don't have anything that stands out, or I don't know how to articulate my value. What made those breakthroughs was Kinder Reese coaching. And, still to this day, Kinder Reese Coaching is where you go, kinderreesecoaching.com, if you want to work side by side with a strategic coach to help you grow your business. Yep. And by being a member of Kinder Reese Coaching, you're going to come to December's Expert Advisor Boot Camp, where you're going to learn everything that's part of the NAEA designation. So it was really getting clear on, the separation between those two. But the part, we had been so more consistent with NAEA. So getting back to, the consistency, the problem there was that we had been more consistent with the push behind branding NAEA.
Yep.
So felt like there was a little sacrifice there when you say, all right, we're going to start pushing Kinder Reese Coaching a little bit more. But so consistency is key. And at the end of the day, we recognized what our goal was. Our goal, we were clear on. And so going back to the definition, it's a long-term strategy to hit specific goals. We revisited what the goal was, clearly defined it, and then made a decision on what we thought was best to represent that goal. But you definitely, it is a long-term strategy. You need to be prepared to be committed over the long haul. You need to be consistent, therefore, and you need to think about what the goal is that you're trying to get, at the end of the day. What's the outcome that you're trying to get, so that along the way you can make sure that what you're doing is still, like in space. I was watching this movie, this thing on Netflix called The 100. It's a crazy thing about these people that are in space, but like one click, 1 degree change in orbit in space, and you ain't hitting the planet. Like you're off, right? 1 little degree of change in your direction, not like nothing, like, any little small change. And if you're not checking, all of a sudden I miss my target. And so your goal is, you got to be so super specific on that, because otherwise I can't come and check the shit. Like, are we a degree off? Are we 2 degrees off?
Right.
So just getting back to the definition, it's you got to, the last word in that definition is goal. The first thing that's a step in that definition is goal.
Yeah. And so let me give you guys a little more context, and this is going to tie to Growth Guys. And, it does come back to the goal, and the question you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about it from a brand perspective, and then I'll get down into the weeds with you guys on a real estate perspective, what we've seen over the years. But the one thing that you got to ask yourself is, what problem are you trying to solve with your service? And so give you some context, with Kinder Reese, the long-term strategy in play was to play off of, Jay and Michael's experience in the business for the last 20 years and what they've done within the real estate space and community. And it's hard to argue that, Jay's name is probably not one of the hottest names and brands in the entire space of real estate. And so we saw that. And so that was part of the decision making that went into the the whole decision to kind of really go back hard with Kinder Reese Coaching. But when you look at it, we'll say it's like, well, how in the hell did you guys end up with Growth Guys? Well, what we were looking at was we wanted to create a platform to where we can get as much content out as possible that didn't have a name specific tied to it. Yeah, Jeff and we're rocking the content right now, but the long-term strategy was that we didn't have to rock the content forever, right? Like this podcast could run for the next 10 years as Growth Guys, but it could fit, we could have some badass women on here that could rock it. We've got other coaches, other great, amazing people that can jump in here and continue to add content on a consistent basis that would still fit under the Growth Guys umbrella. So that was kind of our thinking from a long-term strategy. And I'm just trying to give you guys as much, context to help you get your head around it. So shifting over to the real estate side of things. Here's what we've seen. I've been at this, I'm like 80 as of today, right at 80 one-on-one coaching calls away from 10,000. And so this is not my first branding rodeo, right, to walk through with agents. And so one of the things that I've seen over the years is that if you are the face, and as a solopreneur, solo agent looking to build a team, maybe not, maybe an assistant, whatever it is, you are the brand, period. You're the one that's connecting. You're the one that's in the marketplace. And here's the other thing, man, is that you've got to be careful. And this is, I'll first and foremost, dude, we've jacked this up terribly. We've jacked this up from a brand confusion, right? NAEA. It was Kinder Reese Coaching, NAEA. There's now Kinder Reese Coaching again. You've got, what's this thing with Market Maker? What's this thing? What's Digital President? What's this? What's that? Like brand confusion, like we're the best at, like we're like, you go Google brand confusion, like we pop up. And so like we're preaching from our mistakes. I just want you guys to be aware of that. Like we've effed this up.
You should see all the domains that we own.
You guys would laugh. I guarantee we have almost 1,000 domains bought amongst, the handful of us inside of GoDaddy. I'm not kidding you. There's right at 1,000 different domains that have been purchased. Pete, purge those. We're like, hell no, that's valuable real estate. Oh, you gotta love your controller. So the thing though that we've seen from a real estate perspective, guys, is that you are the brand. You have to own it, and you've got to understand that's what it is to really get the jump start to accelerate. Can you build a brand that's not your name? Yeah. Is it going to take more time? 100%.
But go back to the goal, right? If the goal for us is to not be doing Growth Guys podcast episodes all the time, but to have somebody else to be able to grow and do these, then it fits. If your goal was to have something where you would be able to maybe step out of production and have a plug and play model that you could replicate in any market across the country, immediately establish an understanding of what represents your brand, no matter where you pop up, then like Expert Advisor Home Services works, right? But if you're wanting to be the integral component in it, and you're the recognizable one, you're the one who's out there at the events, you're the one who's on the magazine covers, if that's the position that you have in your organization, then yeah, it is going to be about, nobody, I don't buy the George Foreman, the Foreman grill. You can call it he's the thing, you know what I mean? It's him. Look at these pitch guys, the guys, if you watch those infomercials on TV, you remember the ShamWow guy more than you remember, you know what I mean? Those people really become representative of the brands.
Be careful. I know that's on it. In a lot of your minds, you'll hear that and you'll say, well, hell yeah, that's what I want. That takes time and it takes money, right? The reason that we were able to push Expert Advisor Home Services is because we had 10 partners and another 10 agents, and we were doing different things, but we were branding our partners that were, Chris Jackson of, Expert Advisor Home Services. So Chris was the brand, but yeah, there was a bigger brand with Expert Advisor Home Services. So the caveat there, guys, is like, if it's just you, right, just starting out, you might have aspirations in 4 or 5 years. That's where you want to get to. 3 years, 4 years, cool. But starting out, like if this is like your year 1, year 2, you're hearing this, man, just own it. You're the brand. You've got to be the brand in everything you do. You attack social media. There's different strategies, things that, we can definitely dive deeper with you on. But from a brand perspective, man, it has to be there. I would say the other thing that, we jacked up was brand confusion. You've got to stay consistent. We did a great job with that in Lawton. So I can tell you the importance of that. No matter what you do, you stay consistent with the brand. And then the other thing is that understand it's a long term. Just like Jeff was saying, man, it's long term, aligned to your goals. And now, if your goal, so Jeff, maybe we can wrap with this example. If you know that you don't want to be the brand long term, but short term, you've got to be the brand to get enough revenue to that point to where you can have a transition, maybe with a partner or a rebrand, or we even went to the route of it's Stace Bolender at J. Kinder Real Estate Experts, right? We were branding Stace. So you got to understand there can be a transition, but if you're starting out, man, you're the brand. You just got to own it. You got to stay consistent. You got to understand it's a little bit of a long-term play, and there's some details that go into determining color, all the fonts and stuff like that. But that that's getting down in the weeds, which we can definitely help you out with, man. Just hit us up, kinderreescoaching.com.
Yeah, and we're going to go, there's so many facets in the marketing and branding side that we're going to dive a little bit deeper, I think, on a few more episodes where we'll talk a little bit more about the tactical side and creating your ideal customer profiles and stuff like that. But, to sum things up today, I would just remember you going back to your definition, it's a long-term strategy to reach specific goals, which means that you got to figure out what that specific goal is. That's the first thing. It's what is the goal? And as you're trying to determine what your brand is, remember that at the end of the day, what it should do is convey exactly to your customer, whether it's through the colors of your logo, whether it's through the imagery and the icons that you use, whether it's through the copy, the name, whatever, it has to be able to cut through all the noise and convey to your customer what you are all about. By the way, how would I be able to convey to a customer what I'm all about? I need to match up what I'm all about to my customer, which means you're going to have to really understand who your customer is too. And so that's where we'll get in more to the weeds on future episodes. But don't forget, if you want to learn how to build a 7-figure real estate business or in 3 years or less, be sure to check out kinderreesecoaching.com. And we will wrap today's episode up, Kitchens, huh?
I love it, man. This is definitely, like you said, I think there'll be many more episodes diving a little bit deeper on the tactical side of this. I mean, shoot, we could talk for hours, just even on the high level of it. So it's awesome. And like Jeff said, if you want to get there in 3 years or less, kinderreesecoaching.com. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bam.
To find out how to build a 7-figure real estate business in 3 years or less, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. You've been listening to the Growth Guys Podcast. If you want us to help you grow your real estate business, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Growth Guys Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix to get new, fresh weekly episodes. Catch you next time on the Growth Guys Podcast.